Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 4. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously with everything going on, Clark is trying to give Lois like a break from everything because this is the first day, like after her first day of chemo treatment, and he wants things nice and quiet. So like obviously he's extra on pins and needles when it comes to Lois, because obviously he was handling a forest fire situation. I love that Jordan was there to help out, and obviously like he's using his cold breath, but then like Clark has to brush some of the frost off his suit because it's like, yeah, you kind of spread it everywhere. Weren't really like, don't have it pointed out, but it's like, okay, your mom, something's going on. You handle all of this, you know, like, what was it, like, start at the outer rim and kind of make your way in. So that was pretty dope. And leaving it to Jordan, it seems like he handled it himself. But Clark went back, and the only thing that happened was, like, Lois she, like, dropped the glass. She's like, it's just me being clumsy. But also, me being sick isn't an excuse for you to use your super hearing. Because that was something that was brought up in the first season, that Clark and Lois almost broke up because she found out that he was using his super hearing to kind of like spy on her, and it's like that was a point of contention in a relationship. And obviously he kind of made the mistake again in season 1 when he was keeping an ear on the Jordan and Jonathan. So it is that situation of, it's understandable why he's, once again, he's extra like, oh, it's everything okay because she's going through chemo right now. It's the first day after after her first treatment, so he's extra like nervous and worried about like, hey, I got to make sure she's okay. So he doesn't want any arguing or anything happening at that time. And so obviously you have so many plot threads. I'm gonna have to bounce around a little bit. So let's start off with Jonathan and let's start off with Jonathan's circumstances. He ends up like going to just see Candace, and he's not there to start anything with Candace's dad, but he's up there being like, right, you around spreading stuff about me, which I'm like, Jonathan didn't say anything. He specifically went out of his way not to say anything about you because he didn't want it to fall back on Candace, because it's like, right, he didn't want to be responsible for locking up the only parent she's got. So yeah, like Jonathan kept his mouth shut. That was the whole point of them all handling stuff and not getting the police involved, because they didn't want to fall back on her dad. So it's like, you should actually be thanking him, but it's like, nah, he's not thinking like that. He's just kind of like, oh, you've been running. Because I guess Candace must have confronted him about, but like Jonathan's like, I know you stole the truck. I also know you stole the watch. I'm not going to run around telling, but it's like, yeah, don't pretend like you're a great person. I know what you're doing. And he's like, yeah, you're up here claiming I'm an XK dealer and stuff like that. And he calls Jonathan a liar and punches him in the face. It's like, Jesus. It's like, you are punching a kid. Because they're 17 now, aren't they? Yeah, because their birthday was like, wasn't it the first episode was their birthday? So it's like, yeah, you're still, I mean, I guess it also depends on what Kansas is like, what you're legally considered an adult. Because, I mean, it's assault regardless, but also, like, you also assaulted a minor, so I'm sure that adds more to it. But Jonathan didn't want to tell his mom or anything, but he ultimately had to, because it's like, yeah, obviously Lois was super upset with Clark doing the whole thing of, like, don't tell anyone to bother me. It's like, I'm a mother, wife, and a journalist. That comes first. That, and it's like, because my whole point was, I didn't want this to define me, because yes, it's what's happening to me, but it is not all that I am. I am not just my sickness, because I don't want to be like, you walking on pins and needles and treating me like I'm so fragile. We expressly had the conversation. I didn't want that. And obviously it's just, and it comes from a place of love, but sometimes it's just like that love can, cross some boundaries in that regard. And Clark is like, hey, like, yes, I'm very overprotective when it comes to you. So I shouldn't have told the boys that wasn't right. And also I shouldn't have handled the John Henry thing without you, because he and Clark ended up telling him about, like, right, we visited your sister. We also found out that John Henry of this world is the one that was selling him his tech. That's why those gauntlets or whatever, like, things that were shooting out the kryptonite last episode, they used the same technology. He used it as a kind of jetpack boost for his suit. So, but we'll circle back to the John Henry stuff in a little bit. But the moment I mean, first and foremost, Lois was like, right, you guys going after the truck the way you did was dangerous. You could have gotten hurt. Because it's like, yeah, at least Natalie had, I mean, it's like you got your brother and Natalie involved. At least Natalie had the suit. Jordan has his powers, so it's okay. But it's still like, Jonathan is the one without powers. He could have gotten hurt. But it's like, right, the moment he found out it was Candace's dad that did, stepped to him and was like, yo, we gonna have a problem. She's like, I know what kind of person you are. He's like, I'm not afraid. Doing the ultimate scumbag thing of like, I'm not afraid to hit a woman if I need to, and even threatening like with the gun and stuff. And she's like, I ain't afraid of you, you know? So the moment they go back home and Clark got back there and it's like, what happened? It's like, wait, Candace's dad did that too? He's like, yeah, he also threatened mom with a gun. It's like, yo, Clark went beast mode in that moment. And Lois is like, he's not like, this isn't a situation that needs Superman. He's like, oh, Superman's not going there. Clark Kent is. I was like, yeah. Dude, I got too hyped about that. I rewound that scene a couple times because I was like, that's so dope. Him stepping to him was like, yo, I don't want to do this in front of your daughter, but it's like, you're the one that punched my son. You brandish your gun at my wife. And the guy, and he tries to push Clark but can't move him. Because I love it because Kyle and Sarah and Lana are there, which we'll talk about their situation later, but Lana and Sarah are like, yo, we know what this is. We know that's Superman over there. I even love Cobb, like, Jesus, Kent, because he didn't expect that from Clark. Because Clark has always made such a point of like, hey, like when I'm Clark Kent, I'm like, oh, I gotta be fumbling guy. But it's like, no. My family was threatened. I ain't playing that shit right now. And I just like grabbed him and slammed him down. It's like, all right, you steal another thing that's not yours. You threaten my family. You sell another drug. I will come for you. Do you hear me? He's like, yes. And he's like, good, leave. I was like, that's so dope that you get to see like Clark have that moment. Because that's not a moment that would be a Clark Kent moment, you know? Because it's like, yeah, the facade, the mask slipped a little bit in that moment because it's like, right, all he saw was red because of everything that's going on. He's very protective of his family regardless, but knowing like, right, you did that to my son, you threatened my wife. No, we're not playing that. You know? And he also apologized to Candace, like, I'm sorry that happened. Candace like, my dad really did that? I was like, yeah, can I go see Jonathan? And he's like, sure. Because it's like, right, Candace is, yeah, she was selling XK last season, but it's also because of her dad, but also it's like, and sad thing is, she's even taken it upon herself. She's like, this is my fault. My dad only kind of got mixed up in the world he did because he did everything he could to protect me, and even Clark said that doesn't exclude his choices. His choices don't have to define you. He made his decision, whatever the reasons may be. You shouldn't, and because it still doesn't justify him getting as deep into what he's mixed up in and being the person that he is. So they're gonna let Candace stay there for a while, and you can tell this. I made sure to be like, yeah, Jonathan's gonna be staying in Jordan's room. You can be staying in Jonathan's room because it's like, oh god, another person living there, so that's interesting. And even Lois joking like, oh my god, this is gonna be such a chaotic mess of a situation. Also, it turns out like Clark's listening for Candace's dad. It's like, yep, he kind of crossed over into a different county, so it's like, wow, you must have really scared him. It's like, yeah, but it was such a beautiful moment. It was just kind of like, okay, like, this beautiful parenting moment. It's just like, once again, it's expedited by the fact is that it's enhanced by the fact is that it's like, yes, the parent situation is Superman and Lois, So that's definitely going to be interesting to see how you balance that out with Candace staying there, at least for a little while you're doing your Superman thing, while Lois is doing her investigation thing, Jordan avoiding like getting spotted with his powers and stuff. Which, speaking of Jordan, he had beef with Sam this episode because Sam was like, yo, here's some photos and it had your very distinct, curly hair. Yeah, I'm gonna take you in there. You're gonna get a cut because it's like, yeah, like the whole point of being, the whole point of keeping your secret identity is kind of hiding it. That's why Clark has to be so unassuming. You have to blend in with the crowd. That's what the glasses are for. So, and not having any hair that could stand out and be super recognizable and tied to you, that's also another thing. So, but Jordan, being kind of a brat, being like, no, I'm not going to do that. And also, who are you to talk to me about being a hero? It's kind of like, yo, and I love Sam clap back. He's like, yo, I'm a 4-star general. What are you talking about, kid? It's like this ungrateful, but he later on apologized because it's like, I shouldn't have said that. But I also love Sam being like, yeah, me in the past, I never would have ever admitted it. But honestly, what you said did hurt my feelings. It cut deep, but it's like, no, we're good. But he also comes from a place of, yeah, I get it too. Like, when you're at that age, you're a teenager. Like, every little thing in life matters. Like, when you're in high school, you think everything, everything is such a gigantic thing. It's not till you become an adult, you're like, oh man, I was so caught up in something that was so trivial. It's hindsight's 2020, especially when you have age and experience added to that. But I was so curious to see if they were actually going to go through with that, but no, it turns out they didn't. But instead, his dad, Sam, ended up getting him a new suit to kind of wear. He's like, I don't know if it's kind of like a very specific hood or whatever. Like, I couldn't really make out what it is inside the box. We probably won't really get a good look at it until next episode. But he's also going to get some goggles, which I am curious because I'm like, is that going to be like a more traditional Superboy outfit? Because when I think of Superboy, I think of because I think in the comics, he has like I think in more recent comics, because obviously it's not Jordan, it's Jonathan in the comics, but Jonathan is full-blown Superman. I don't know what the circumstances are, whether he's feeling, I don't know whether his dad's just off of Earth or whatever, but he is like the current Superman, in some more recent runs of the comics that I'm aware of. Or maybe it's like a very specific run. But I know Superboy has I don't know if it's like a classic Superboy outfit, but I've seen pictures of more modern comics showing the Super Family. But it's he's got the jacket. It's a very Superman colored outfit, but then on top of it, it's a black jacket. I wonder, is this supposed to be kind of but it's a hoodie version of it. And he's also got he's got goggles to kind of help, I guess, hide his identity more. Once again, we won't get a full good look at it because it looks like it's just kind of a black suit. Kind of reminds me of, well, I guess maybe it's supposed to be a little reminiscent of just the black suit from the comics, which I associate it more with Smallville when he was just wearing all black in Smallville, when he was the Blur and everything, before he eventually got the red jacket later on in the show. But obviously that's all kind of in reference to the black suit from the comics, the same one that Henry Cavill's Superman gets in the Zack Snyder, why did I say that weird? Zack Snyder Justice League movie. But either way. So that was interesting. So there's that side of things. Circling back around to the situation with Henry Irons. He was kind of upset that Clark and Lois kind of made this decision without telling him. Also, the fact is he told them not to look into the Mannheim stuff, but they did anyway. And because now it also potentially puts his sister in danger. So I was so curious how he was going to approach this. I was like, okay, so he's going to do the whole yeah, I faked my death thing. But it's no, I'm not your brother. I just look like him. I'm from a different world. Oh, you mean that square thing? That square world? He's like, yeah, something like that. I was like, all right, yeah. That would be a little easier to explain to most people because the entire world did experience that. I mean, because it's not that was a fever dream. It's no, everyone knows that was a thing that Superman helped stop. So it's not oh, that must have been a fever dream everyone imagined. It's no, we all know what was what. So it makes it a little easier to explain the multiverse stuff of yeah, I'm your brother from a different universe. So, but yeah, she says that when it came to her, Henry Irons, that when John was came out of the military, she said things were okay for a little while, but then they got bad, and basically he got mixed up in the wrong people. We don't know how he fully got mixed up with Bruno. Maybe it's a situation of initially he probably thought Bruno was a better person than he was. He probably thought hey, Bruno wants to do something. He wants to build stuff what he keeps parading around to other people. Oh yeah, I'm building this stuff up for my community and stuff like that. So it's trying to be hey, I'm a good guy. I'm looking out for my community when no one else would. And maybe John was hey, I want to back a guy like this with the tech that I have, do good with it. But then it's no, he went off and did some terrible stuff with that technology. So, and obviously I think John probably got so deep that he couldn't free himself from the situation, and so he pushed his sister away, pushed his family away because of the only way to ensure that their safety. So And the heartbreaking thing for his sister too, being like, right, like, she said like, yeah, me and my brother, we were super close, because for John, it's like, oh, my world, me and you were like super, my version of you were like super close. And the sad thing is for her, it's like, right, my brother's gone and we weren't in a good place. And it brings up too much pain. But, Bruno Mannheim like brings John in, and he knows exactly. It's like, right, like the fact is, I saw the suit. I didn't really think much of it, but then I was like, I should have figured that was you behind it. Like, oh, you're from a different world and everything. It's wild. So he doesn't look at it as like you're. I mean, I guess with everything that's going on, everyone's latched onto like there's other worlds and other versions of people. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. The general world knows about the multiverse now. Like, oh yeah, there's going to be other versions of us that might pop up on this planet, type of thing. But either way, when it's all said and done, he's threatening, because he reveals like, hey, I know you have a connection to Superman. Now, the scary thing is he doesn't know about Clark being Superman, but he knows that you have a tie to Superman, and you also have a connection to Lois. So, when the situation comes to it, like, I can come after your... Later on, he's threatening, like, oh, I can come after your family. Oh, actually, I already got your sister. Which I love John, like pushing out of the way, jumping off the balcony, getting suited up and tracking down his sister because he recognized the technology. It's like, well, that's the sad and beneficial element of it, because this world's version of him ended up selling the technology he's familiar with. So he knew all he had to do was track technology that his suit would be familiar with, and ended up finding his sister, and he was able to save her ultimately. And went back to Bruno. And I love that Bruno was very calm, cool, and collected the entire time. But the moment Henry left, you could tell him go like, like he was a little shaken, because it was still like a man came at you full speed in an iron suit, was ready to. He's like, I should kill you right now. It's like, but you won't, because you got family in New Orleans. I can have them killed in an instant. All it takes is like, my people are just waiting on the word. So you go ahead. Anything happens to me, they die. It's like, cool. So keep Lois out of my business. Don't you come around here anymore. I made it perfectly clear to Superman, don't step foot in my door anymore. So now all three of them are going to have to try and figure it out, because Lois blames herself because what happened, but it's like, no, it's not because you went to see my sister. Like, Bruno already had his sights on me the moment Onomatopoeia recognized me, because they still don't know that Onomatopoeia is the one that ended up killing this world's John Henry. Irons. But it's like, yeah, the moment I was helping out Lana and Onomatopoeia saw me, that was enough to, that was already kind of set in stone. That made him decide to look deeper into this whole situation. So, but now they got to figure out how to handle things. And because he did pay, was it like $250 million to a very specific hospital to make it seem like he's more on the up and up, that he is the charitable and good-willed businessman that he is. A lot of evil businessmen in the DC universe, have that very entrepreneur approach to kind of hide the monsters that they are. But either way, Lois plans on going undercover there. It's like, right, it's a good facility, and I'll be able to get my treatments. Plus, while I'm there, I'll be able to dig up dirt on Mannheim, so it all works out. Clark's not too receptive on it, but it's kind of like, right, this is what Lois wants to do, and it's like, she will be getting her treatment. She's like, that comes first and foremost, and it's just like, right, two birds, one stone type of thing. So we'll see how that works out. And obviously, Clark has to not go after Mannheim, because he needs to let John Henry Irons have enough time to set up contingencies to kind of protect his family from any, attempts from Bruno. But I thought that was interesting, too, where Bruno's like, right, we'll kind of let her in to let her do whatever she needs to, but we're going to need someone to basically check in to find out what she's really all about. And he's like, I'll be that person. So I'm about to say, I'm curious how we're going to find out. Is he going to make it an excuse because his name is is definitely associated as a benefactor of the facility, that he'll probably be able to just check in whenever he wants to, and he has very big sway at the place, so he can probably keep her monitored to find out what she's really up to. Or not unless we find out he's actually a doctor actually working at the facility too, or something like that. I don't know. Probably more so the former rather than the latter, but we'll ultimately have to wait to see. And then finally, there's the whole situation with the aftermath of the Lana and Sarah situation. And obviously, Sarah did kind of do it on purpose. I think she also didn't really think she was in the wrong, but she was like, yeah, finally told her dad, like, what happened. It's like, Mom slapped me. And it's like, whoa, I'll make sure this won't ever happen again. And he talks to Lana, and he said, like, we made a promise, because Lana had talked about it last episode, that she didn't like what she did because it reminded her too much of her own upbringing, because she had made a promise she would never handle Sarah the way her mom handled her. Because I was wondering if Kyle came from a similar background, but he made a point to say, like, we made an agreement that we would never, like, lay hands on our children, just like that we'd never do what happened to you. So it kind of seems like it was more so like Lana had to deal with that type of upbringing, but maybe Kyle didn't. Either way, but Lana gave him the explanation of what was happening. It's like, oh, she said that to you? He's like, yeah, just funny enough, ended up having to, like, leave out that part of the details about what she said that set Lana off. And then, obviously he confronts Sarah about it. It's like, oh, does it make it okay? He's like, no, but the thing is, you don't have the right to throw my mistakes in your mom's face and making her feel like it was her fault. Especially at a time, like, because obviously, yes, she's stressed out about everything. She should have never done that, and she's promising never to do that again. And Kyle tells her, like, the time when you tried to hurt yourself, the fact is, when you were unconscious, your mom was there giving you CPR, and even when the doctors told her that you were okay, she still never left your side. Your mom loves you. And yes, she made a mistake, but don't define your mom on her worst day. And that's that, I don't know if it's like a quote or adage or like what it comes from, but it's like, right, don't judge someone on the action, who they are on their worst day. Judge them on every other day. And it's like, your mom's been it's never been an issue beforehand, so judge your mom on, it's like, right, you wouldn't want anyone judging you on your worst day. Because once again, Lana did go into a little bit of explaining about her issues with her mom. But like I said, I think at that point, Sarah probably snuck out the door. So she probably never heard. I don't think Sarah heard that, what Lana was trying to talk to her about last episode. Obviously, Lana is apologetic and promising that it will never happen again. But even Sarah's like, yeah, I shouldn't have said what I said. I did it just to hurt you. And I don't even know why I said it. I didn't even mean it. Obviously mistakes were made across the board. But when Lana tried to reach out to Sarah, Sarah kind of pulls her hand back. Because it's like, yeah, that kind of has broken the trust between them. But because Sarah had brought up the point, like, their family dynamic is completely different. Like, things have changed. And for her, she almost doesn't recognize her mom anymore. Because it's like, right, you're not even living at the house anymore. Like, everything's changed. Like, what she's known. And especially at a time when you're a teenager, it's like you're figuring yourself out. You got a lot of stuff to figure out on your own. Plus, your family dynamic is, it's still like, yes, like you still got both of your loving parents in your life, but it's still just, it's kind of weird and awkward and just, it's complicated. So there's a lot that that family kind of has to figure their way through going forward. And it's going to be interesting to see ultimately what happens on that front. I completely forgot to talk about another element to the episode. I was thinking about it earlier, but I forgot to bring it up, was the blood situation. So we finally got an answer because Sam told Clark, it's like, okay, I know how they got your blood. When Allie sapped you last episode and you were basically basically human, it was at the time where the government was trying to find a way to heal you. But the thing is, they kept a whole bunch of your blood just in case something like this happens in the future. It's like, yeah, but the thing is, they knew they were in the wrong because they made sure, for one, not to tell Sam, but also not to tell Superman. So it's like, right, at the very least, you should have let me know that you did that. But it's like, and it turns out all the vials of blood are still there, but all all Bruno needed was a single drop of blood, and all he had to do was he could synthesize all that he needed. So you kind of helped put him in the position he's in right now. I wonder who ended up snatching the blood. I mean, I guess he has enough power and connections. He was probably able to kind of grease some palms to make that happen. Because I was about to say, at what point in time would you have gotten his blood? Because that's the thing about Clark. He can't bleed under normal circumstances. Now, you involve some kryptonite in the situation, yes. But on a situation where you'd be able to get his blood, it's right, that's how. So that's kind of an interesting kind of resolution to that. But it also kind of shows he can just kind of make as much as he wants, because now we have they have the synthetic nature that what they need to just synthetically make it whenever they want. So But I just thought that was interesting. And like, obviously the government apologized. The general was like, yeah, I'm sorry. This won't happen again. We'll definitely be like taking a higher security situation. But Clark was like, nah, I got it. Lasered it, destroyed it. It's like, good day, General. Walked away, and Sam was just kind of almost like I mean, yeah, it's not much we can do about it. So now I'm curious to see where that blood situation does continue to go throughout the rest of the season. I mean, once again, it's kind of been taken care of at the source, but even if Clark destroyed all the blood, it's still something that they'd probably be able to easily replicate now because they've done it so many times already that there'd probably be no permanently getting rid of that unless you take everything and everyone down that's associated with Bruno. That might be the only mean. But it's going to be interesting in general to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.